Hello, everyone. Welcome to Virtual Thursday, our 9th edition of Virtual Thursday for the year 2021. Today, we'll be reviewing a couple parts of the ER system, is specifically ER rig checks and fuelER. My name is Mark Wolf, lead international trainer. I'll be presenting today. On board with me today, serving as my wingman, Tom Lewis, our enterprise training manager, Greg Simmons, part-time regional trainer, and also our brand new, bright and shiny regional trainer, Sean Sims. If you have questions today, please put them into the chat. We'll get to them all, and we do ask you to please stay on topic. Want to mention that we do have training opportunities, Virtual Thursdays. They're free. Y'all know that. You're here. They're typically start at 1100 hours Pacific time on the first Thursday of every month. Occasionally we'll slide one in on the third Thursday of a month if we have additional material to present to you. You'll see them advertised at the top of your ER page and on our sign-in page in our scrolling slides there, and also in social media. So please feel free to attend them, and we'll get you some education. We do provide online training. The typical block is a 3-hour block. We can customize those to meet your needs. We have some other opportunities for you with online training. We can provide on-site training. Matter of fact, one of our trainers that you see here often, James, is up in Pennsylvania this week doing an on-site training, and regional training academies. It's kind of been a somewhat of an issue with getting those off. We've had to cancel some of them because of COVID and low attendance in that, although we do have one currently on the books that we'll mention, and that is Austin, Texas, October 19th to the 21st. You'll see some materials and ads for that soon if you have the need or desire to attend a regional training academy where you'll get intensive ER training over a 3-day period. Please keep that in mind and check into booking a trip to Austin in October. You can go to our what we call the marketing site, emergencyreporting.com. Look in the customer success section, events and trade shows for those regional training academies, or simply email us at training@emergencyreporting.com. I do want to throw up a few items here for you, some information, URLs or web addresses for you. We're going to talk about later on, and I'll come back to this slide at that time for the fuelER web app. We're going to show you some knowledge-based articles on where to look this information up. If you are on our commercial site or .com, it's fuelER.ersapps.com, and if you're a customer on our ultra secure site, it's fuelER.ersapps.us, and I will come back to that here in a little while when it's appropriate to do so. So that's the end of our slides. We are going to go ahead and jump right into the presentation today and talk about ER rig checks. And we've got a few other parts of the system we're going to go look at in the meantime. So first place I need to go is to the maintenance module. And we're going to get there, and you'll see at the top of the page the button to navigate to ER rig checks. And when we get to ER rig checks, this is the page here, but I actually want to back up one moment to show you one item that we want to mention briefly here. Is on the apparatus page, all of your rigs are broken down into these different sections. Now, some of you in your particular accounts may have mutual aid department units in your account for keeping track of units that respond to fire calls and so forth. I do want to mention, if that is the case and they are on your apparatus page, you can get them removed from that. And what we're going to do here is we're going to duplicate my screen here. I'm going to jump to the admin module and show you how to do that. So within an apparatus list, if you have a unit that would be, let's call it a mutual aid unit, but you want to track times and personnel and so forth in your incident responses, the thing to do, and I'm going to go to this unit that I've ID'd TR-1A and show you a setting that we have. Down here at the bottom of the apparatus page is a field labeled apparatus ownership. If it's a unit that you want to have in your list for apparatus for incidents, but not in your maintenance list, select not department unit. And that way they'll show on one list, but not in your maintenance list. So to clean that up a little bit, you can perform that function. And that will remove them from this particular list here. So with that information, let's jump over to ER rig checks. And first thing we're going to do is navigate about this page a little bit. At the top of the page, we've got a search field. We can search by the ID number of the vehicle. So let's say I'm looking for unit P-101. I can just simply enter that in, and the system will filter by the ID number or by the vehicle ID number. So if I'm looking for this particular unit, I just know the vehicle ID number, type it in, and we can filter that list. So I get the right year in here. There we go, 2001. And I've filtered my entire list out by the vehicle ID number, the vehicle number, I should say. So that's a useful search field, especially in the new departments that have multiple stations, multiple apparatus. You can find a specific vehicle pretty quick by using the search field. Now, over at the middle filter is show apparatus by station. Right now I have all apparatus displaying, so I've got kind of a lengthy list. This account, which is a training account, is broken into 3 stations with multiple apparatuses we would expect. In your case, let's say you're assigned to the station that we titled the little house here. So if I turn that off and just select that station, we're only looking at the apparatus in that particular station. And we can do that in the show filter, middle of the top of the page. Now, when we move over to the right of that in the status filter, what we can do is display the apparatus, whether they're in or out of service. So if you don't want to display any rigs you have out of service, select that and it takes them off the page. In service, obviously the vehicles that are in service. Another special little feature we have on this particular page is, again, an ability to display them assigned to my station. And in this particular account, I am assigned to the station that we call the little house. Or no, actually this is one called up north. Or the other filter that we can use on this particular page, if we have incomplete rig checks hanging out there, if I check that box, and you can see I've got a number of vehicles that in fact have incomplete rig checks that have been started and not submitted. So we can find out which ones are out there hanging, and why maybe we don't get the records inputted is because we didn't actually complete them. Might be a useful little filter for you to check once in a while. So that's the filters at the top of the page. You have 3 options there. Now each apparatus is put down into their NFIRS apparatus classification. So we have our pumpers or engines in the type 11, or ladder trucks or aerials in 12s, quints in 13, and so forth down the page. We can close those sections by selecting the little arrow here, as you can see. Open and close them. And I think that's really, we want to talk about the individual tiles for the rigs. So every rig will have its own individual tile with the ID number. So that's the apparatus ID. Moving to the right is the vehicle number, which is a best practice to put a unique vehicle identifier in for that specific vehicle. We can edit the checklist or create new ones by selecting that pencil button. And you can see in this particular tile, this apparatus is assigned to a station that we call the little house, and it has 3 checklists, and you can see those checklists are available if we select start check button when it's blue and it lights up with the blue background. When we mouse over it, that shows us that we do have checklist, and those are the 3 that we have for that particular vehicle. Now, if your checklist start check button, the text is black and it does not light up with that blue background, when we mouse over it, you can see that we have 0 checklists for that vehicle. And that's one of the ones we're going to work with today to create a checklist to show you how this all works. You also have a vehicle or view history button. Now what this button will do when we select it will take us to the maintenance history for this specific vehicle. If we need to refer to that, just give it a selection and we'll go right into it. And you can see that a rig check that we did a while back, the date, the title. It always puts a rig check in the maintenance history as a routine inspection. The title of our rig check form will be displayed in the maintenance history, who performed the rig check, and any notes or failed questions that we put in will be displayed in the notes. And we can actually, nice little feature, we can select the edit pencil for the actual maintenance record. And if it's a rig check, at the top of the page, you'll have this option to select the link for monthly rig check, and it'll download it out to a print page that you can view. And you can view that with your department logo at the top, title of the form, when it was done, who did it, and all the questions will be available for you to view on that particular page. So again, whenever you do a rig check, if you want to look at the actual form in somewhat of a paper-based viewpoint, go to the maintenance record and then select that monthly rig check link, and you'll be able to do so. We're going to get all that closed up and go back to rig checks. And we're going to go over the process of creating a rig check next. And before I do that, I'm going to jump in and ask my wingman out there, do I need to pause and answer any questions, or you guys need to break in for anything?
No, you're on a roll,
so far,
Mark.
Mark. You're good to go.
Looking good, no questions.
Okay, perfect. So we're going to focus on engine 301 today. And now I mouse over my edit rig checks button and select it. We'll go to this page and you can see it is empty. So I need to create a new checklist. And we're going to go over these features in a little bit here after I create one. So pretty simple. In the upper corner of the page, upper right corner, the new button, we select it with a good old mouse click and we go into a new checklist. So at the top of the page, you'll see we have a couple controls here. Done, we'll save a draft form of the checklist. We can delete the draft. We can preview it, what it's going to look like, and we'll do that in a few moments here. And also, when we get done with our draft, we have to publish a checklist before it can actually be used by your personnel. First thing we're going to do is give it an appropriate title. And we're just going to call this VTH 2021-9, and we can put a description in for the checklist. Whatever may be appropriate for you, and we get those done. We're going to slide down here to the meter readings. Now with the meter readings, we do have a couple options now. We can, right at the top of the rig check form, require, and that's what this check mark in this box will mean, is requiring an odometer reading, require engine hours, and require pump hours. Now, that's not needed for this particular vehicle, and you may want to move these questions to a compartment, such as the inside the cab, and I'll show you that here in a few minutes. You can remove these. I am going to include the question for odometer reading at the top of the page just to demo this a little bit. Now, down below that, we have the rig check forms are broke into compartments. And we need to title it. So basically what I recommend you do is take your checklist form. Undoubtedly, it may be a paper-based form. Just take it, lay it out in front of you, and kind of break this up into how you can do your rig checks. In my department, the first things we did basically is under hood checks. And when we go under the under hood checks, in this particular compartment, we're going to add some questions down here. Before we get to that, we'll describe to you that we have an enable bulk pass option. I'm going to leave it set to no for this particular question or compartment, but you can enable this. When you turn this on, you can do a bulk pass operation, and I'll do that in the next compartment that I'm going to make here. So you can see what how we work that. You can also add a question or a photograph into the each compartment. This may be simply open the doors on a compartment. If it's like the engineer's compartment, shoot a photograph of it. You can upload it here and basically use it as a inventory check. If everything's in the compartment that's in the photograph, then you're good to go. Now we'll drop down to the questions. You have to have, and this is an important fact, you have to have at least one question in every compartment, or your rig check form will not allow you to submit it correctly. So if you're having that issue, look at your rig check form to make sure you have a question for every compartment. The default setting here is going to give us a pass-fail question, and we're just going to leave this alone right now and go with that. So if we're looking under the hood, what are the things we want to do? First thing that we always think of is check the engine oil level. So we'll mark it a pass-fail question, engine oil, check engine oil level as a description, and we'll move on. Now, when we add a question, you'll see the option comes up. We can put in an additional pass-fail, a meter reading, which I'll get to in a little bit here, or SCBA cylinder check. And we'll demo those in some other compartments and questions in a little bit here. So I've just simply selected to add a new pass-fail question. And this one, basically, we're going to check the transmission fluid. And we get our description in, we're just going to move on. And another one we'll put in as a pass-fail question, typical for under hood checks, is, check all the belts. And so forth as we go down the page. Now we're going to jump into another compartment. Commonly, what we'll do is do inside the cab checks, and that's what we're going to demo now. We're going to show you some of those other question types. This particular compartment, we are going to go ahead and label it maybe just inside cab checks to make it fairly simple. In this particular case, we're going to enable the bulk pass operation. We can also upload a photo to it if it's appropriate. And in this particular checklist item, we're going to, think about what are the things that we want to look at when we're inside the cab. And warning lights, possibly. Next question we might want to ask is, I want to pick on one of our previous trainers here. Maybe one thing we want to look at is our siren. We had a trainer in the past, Tommy Batson down in North Carolina. I don't know if he's online with us today, but he's from the great state of North Carolina. So to me, he talks a little funny. So this is in his honor. And we'll just move on. And we're going to go down and now do a meter reading. And we select the meter reading now. You can see we have various meter types in here that we can pick. Here's our list: aerial hours, depth fluid levels, fuel level, water tank level, odometer reading. Let's go down here a bit, engine hours and pump hours. So basically the three meter readings at the top of the page, you can also put into a compartment step check question. In this particular case, I am going to insert fuel level. In my department, we had a rule that the fuel level on our daily truck checks had to be above 3/4 of tank. And we'll just go ahead and move on. And we'll put a question in, and we'll do another meter reading, and we will put an engine hours question in. And we'll just, record. Engine hours, so forth down the page. Now we're going to get to the SCBA questions. Whenever we select to add a question and SCBA cylinder check, you're going to see 3 questions pop up on the page. First of all, pass fail. What a best practice would be, and especially in a particular compartment, is to identify which air pack it is. In many of our rigs, we may have 3 air packs in the cab, maybe one for the officer's seat, and then we may have additional ones in the jump seat for the firefighters. That's the first question that comes in, and if that doesn't apply to you, you can remove it by just deleting that part of the question. Maybe you want to do a cylinder PSI check. That question will be there, and also a hydrostatic test date. And again, if you don't need this information in this particular daily or rig check form, you can remove it. So in this case, I don't need the hydrostatic test date. I can remove that of the 3 questions for the SCBA. I'm going to leave it at that for the cab, and we're going to move down and go down, and we're going to make this compartment number 1. We'll leave the bulk pass off, and we'll do a check question here. We'll leave it pass fail, and basically, do we have a nozzle? You might want to add additional questions for inventory purposes. So you may have some adapters if this is an engineer's compartment. And in the description, you could actually list, maybe we carry 2 double female adapters, maybe a couple double male adapters, etc. So you can use this as an inventory form, essentially, by entering that information in the description. And with that, we are going to stop the checklist here. I think you get the point of how to build a checklist. If you have a paper-based checklist form, the best thing to do is set it down next to you and go down, start at the top and work your way down, creating compartments and questions within those compartments for the items that you check on your particular form. Now, with this form, so I get done and I'm going
Mark, if I could cut in for 1 second, there's a good question out there that would be great to address right now. Gary is asking a question, can you add a fuel level label as fuel tank 1 or 2, say for like dual tanks on a brush truck or something like that?
Good idea. So yeah, so let's go up here. I don't think you can on that, but let's find out. I'm going to go ahead and delete that.
Yeah, I think unfortunately, once you've used the fuel level once, it doesn't allow you to use it a second time. So that might be a great feature.
You can only do it once. It only lets you have 1 fuel level. So you could have a second entry down on the list called fuel tank 2, leave that one for fuel tank 1, and then have another entry called fuel tank 2. And the good news is this doesn't tie into fuel logs directly because it's just measuring the current level. So and again, unless Mark has a better idea, I'm thinking you leave the 1 fuel level for tank 1, and then since it only lets you do 1, assuming it only lets you do 1, which I think it does,
so
you can just have another
fuel level here,
another separate entry.
Fuel level for tank 1, and I added it again, fuel level tank 2. So we can't do that, but you cannot change the title in the meter reading level field. Once we select it, it grays out and I can't update that. However, we have something we could show you for the, let's go back up to the SCBA fields. You can edit these, but meter readings you cannot, as you can see here. So, but I mean, we can do it. Fuel level, tank 1, fuel level, tank 2. So we can do that. Just have to identify it in the description. So hopefully that answers that question sufficiently for Gary. Thank you for cutting in, Greg. Okay, so basically, let's say we don't have any more time to finish it, or we're done with it, but we're not going to publish it yet. So when you select done, it will save this as a draft form. And then we see for this particular vehicle, so I'm still in engine 301, the title of my checklist, who updated it or created it, the date they did the work in here, and the status is in a draft. So I can't use this as a truck check form until I publish it. So to publish it, what we're going to do is go back into edit and simply select publish. When we do that, you will see we have it listed as published. If we go back to the apparatus page and we go to engine 301, you can see we have a checklist. And if I select start check, the form we just created today will be available for us here. Now, a couple things about creating your checklist that I want to mention. I already mentioned that you want to make sure you have a question in every compartment. So review your forms for that. Number 2, we found as a best practice, you do not want to do any copying and pasting on compartments. That does cause some conflicts. A unique name for each compartment in the checklist will work best for you, and you won't have any conflicts. So you get it published. We're going to actually just run the checklist in a moment here, but I want to show you another feature you have. So as you can see in this particular account, we have multiple apparatus. And boy, that would be a lot of work if I created a separate checklist for every one of these. What we can do is this. We'll go back into the edit checklist mode here for engine 301. And we've got some options here. So for this particular checklist, here's our options. First of all, we can delete it. So if it's something we're not going to use anymore, simply delete it. That is a hard delete. You won't get it back. You can't do this accidentally. What you have to do is type in the red text here, which is the name of your checklist, in this field. And you see we have this labeled delete forever. That's a clue that this is a hard delete and we cannot recover that data. Now, the important feature we have here is if I made a checklist for engine 301 and it happens to be the same exact checklist or very, very close to the same checklist, I need in another vehicle, mouse over the middle button here, it's a duplicate and assign feature. So I can take this identical checklist that we have and I am going to select to send it over to this engine, XE302, select duplicate and assign, and we're going to be taken to that checklist for engine 302. At the top of the page, you can see that vehicle, and then I can take this particular checklist, and if I need to do a little bit of updating with it, I can update it. And I can add items to it. I can take items off of it if they don't apply to the other vehicle. So let's say down here, this particular vehicle doesn't have 2 fuel tanks. It's only got 1. So boom, it's just as simple to edit the checklist and publish it. And we've recreated that identical published checklist with a couple minor variations and very easily sent it over to another vehicle. Pretty important for you guys that have the bigger fleets. Want to make sure that we have that information out to you. And additionally, let me go back over to engine 301. So let's say this particular checklist, we're using it, but gosh, we need to add a question to it. Simple. If you have the right permissions, there's a separate permission settings to be able to edit or create checklist. I can go back into this particular checklist and update items to it. So let's say I'll just update that we want to do the pump hours now. Here's what happens when we do this. I just selected done. If you'll notice here, this puts it into draft mode. Now, if you're editing a current checklist, it can still be used, even if it's in draft mode right here. They won't see the updated checklist until you publish it. Right now, if I went into engine 301, it will be the original one I just published. My recent changes won't be reflected into it until I go in and publish it. So you can work on these on the fly. It doesn't affect the published checklist that you were previously using until you publish your new draft form. Want to make sure everybody's aware of that. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and run a checklist. So down at the bottom of the page, or for engine 301, select start check, and we're going to pick the appropriate checklist. Another fact I should have mentioned is that there is absolutely no limitation to the number of checklists you add for a vehicle or the number of questions that you put into a particular checklist. I've seen checklists myself that have had well over 200 questions in them. So if in your case, maybe like in my department, we had a daily rig check, that we did for every vehicle every day. And then once a week, they had a weekly check done on each vehicle. So at times we would do 2 checks on a vehicle during that week. And then we actually even had a monthly checklist, was more of a detailed inventory check that we did on a monthly basis. So 2, 3, 4, 5, whatever number of checklists that you need, you can enter them into the system. Just name them appropriately, and you'll be off and running with that. Now, the actual practicality of running a checklist, we're going to select the checklist, in this case that we just started, and it's going to take us to that checklist. The readings at the top of the page, if you have them, are mandatory, so you have to put data into them, and we'll just go down and work through this page, putting in data. So we do our checks. We're going to select a few of these to pass. This one, we're going to mark it fail, and I'm going to look at the descriptions. Here's my description I entered. Now I have the opportunity to put some notes in here. Maybe the power steering belt needs to be replaced. Note that. I can update this with adding a file if I need it. Now let's move down to my inside cab checks, where I enabled that bulk pass operation. So if I select pass all now, any of them that are pass fail questions will be marked pass. Got my engine hours in, my air pack PSI level, fuel level, both tanks are here, and we can mark them as appropriate. And then down here at this compartment, I am going to skip a question and mark the bottom one passed. Now at the bottom of the checklist, we have a button to submit it. Now, if we've answered and put data into every question when we hit submit, it's going to submit it into the vehicle's maintenance history. In this particular case, you can see I've got a flag up at the top of the page right now that I have an incomplete rig check. So I missed something on the form, and you'll see here, it outlines it in red and gives us a little tag here. Please provide an answer. And in this case, I missed that. So let's go back and check it, and then we submit it. And when we submit the checklist, it puts it into the vehicle history. We're going to jump in there now and view the vehicle history for engine 301. And you can see here's our new check, the date, the title of the maintenance type, routine inspection, the title of our rig check form, who did it, and any notes that we put in will be available here. We'll scroll down to the bottom of the page and you'll see failed questions and the notes I put in. Also, if you mouse over that, it will pop up in a balloon right there for you. Now, another feature we have for the rig checks. Let's go ahead and close that. We're going to go back to the home page and we'll show you where this takes place in a moment, but you can get a rig check sent out to your daily log upon completion of it. So now when I go down to the bottom of the home page, here's what that looks like. We've got the rig check completed with my activity code, the apparatus, the ID and vehicle number of it, the name of the rig check form, who completed the rig check, and any failed questions that are marked or notes I put in will be displayed here for you. And you'll also see the start and stop time of the rig check form. To get this particular item set up, what we have to do, once again, we'll go back to the admin module. We'll go to this other tab. And I will show you down here for the default activity codes. So daily log settings, default activity codes, the bottom item on this list, default rig check activity code. You may need to create a activity code in your activity code list. If you map it right here, when you submit a rig check, it will go into the daily log for you automatically. Give you really great information. Now, let's go cover one other item that we need to talk about here is what happens if we get interrupted and we're doing a rig check and we get interrupted, we get another call or we get a phone call or whatnot. So let's go ahead and in this particular case, we're going to start a new check. Same form. We only have one for this particular vehicle. So I'm out there duly performing my rig check, entering my data, and we get banged out on an alarm. I get a phone call or whatever. And it may happen that you get timed out with the system settings. Maybe if you have 20 minutes for an automatic timeout, you go on a fire call or you get a phone call that's kind of lengthy. This rig check is not submitted. So what we're going to do here is just jump back to the ER rig check page. And this will serve the same purpose. In that particular case, let's say I come back from my call, I come in. If since I am the one that started this rig check, when I go back to the rig check, it's going to give me an option and tell me, oh, hey, I've only got 4 of 14 items complete. Do I want to continue checking or do I want to start a new check? Now, if it's I logged in, I'm the one that started it, I have this option. If someone else signs in and starts a rig check for engine 301, their only option they will have is to start a new check. The other list will be discarded. Of course, what I want to do is select continue checking, and I'll go down very quickly here and complete my rig check. And with this, we're going to go in and go ahead and submit it. So I've got that in. Now, another thing I want to mention to everyone here is the rig checks is 100% mobile friendly. And to demonstrate that to you, I have available to me my handy dandy Android tablet. And you can see right here, I have created what we call a web app. So I can actually take my tablet size device, since it's very mobile friendly. It will take me to a sign-in page for ER when I select it. And we'll get this real quick. The important thing about rig check, since it's extremely mobile friendly, is it will size the screen appropriately for the device you're using, whether it's a phone or a tablet. So as you can see with this particular device, I've got all of my features available here. I can use my filters or go down here and start a check on the mobile friendly device, and it will size it to my screen. Let's go ahead and pull that rig check form back up again, and you'll see what I'm talking about. And there it is. It will automatically do that operation for you. So you can do these out in the engine bay with the tablet or a cell phone. You use the browser. Now, what we do have, if you're curious on how this works, we do have some knowledge-based articles that I'm going to go grab on my other screen. And here is that right now. We have a knowledge-based article out in the ER rig check section is how to create this rig checks web app. For Android phones, it's a different process than a Apple device. Basically, this will step you step by step on how to create that web app that will take you directly to the ER rig check page on that mobile device, whether you're connected through a data plan on cell service or you're using a Wi-Fi signal in your station. If you have an Apple device, iOS operating system, down here at the bottom of this page has the information on how to do that to create that web app. I wanted to show you that to give you that information. It makes it real nice and handy. You don't have to go through the sign-in page to the home page to the maintenance module to ER rig checks. It will go right to the rig check page when you sign in. So that's number one. So with given that information, I'm going to pause here because we're going to transition and talk about fuelER next. And I'm going to go ahead and pause and see if my coworkers, my wingmen out there, have
Mark, it's
Any-
Tom. Got a quick one for you. So, sorry, I answered to the wrong person. My apologies, Gary. Jared, so if you're on Ultra, using a mobile device and if you have, and again, I'm assuming if you're on Ultra, most likely you would require CAC credentials. There is a software that is certified for use. I don't recall, the name escapes me, but there is software that can be put on a mobile device that will allow you to use your CAC credentials. You just need to talk to your local IT. And again, I'm assuming you're DoD or federal.
Yeah, that's correct. I don't remember that either, Tom.
Yeah, I can ask Gina. Darn it, the name doesn't escapes me, but there is software that would allow you to use a mobile device when you're on ER Ultra Secure. And then to Steve's question, does it cost per cell phone or tablet to add ER on a device? Not at all. Not at all. There's no device component to using emergency reporting as far as costs go. As long as you have an internet connection, and again, in the case of DoD, having the correct credentials to use a mobile device to access ER because there's other procedures there, you're good to go. So thanks, Jared. Yep, DoD. I'll see if I can track down the name of that software, and I'll chime in back at you here.
Okay, perfect. Thank you, Tom. All right, we're going to talk about fuelER. So let's say you're out in the field and you're fueling up, whether you're at a regular fuel station or you have a organizational city station that you have to go to. We have a web app that is just for you. And I am going to switch back over to my tablet. This is a real web app. It's titled fuelER, and here's how it works. We simply go into our device, and I'll show you some knowledge-based articles we have on how to get this on your device. Basically, this is that app. You will have to sign into it. So we sign into our ER account, which will just take me a moment to do. You'll be taken to the auth page. I don't have to use my credentials since I did not log out from my previous session. And when we get to the fuelER web app, this is what it looks like. We'll step by step, select the apparatus. So which one are we going to pick? Let's say we put fuel in our Quentin right here. Fuel volume. Our gallons, if we put def in it, none of these fields are required. However, the more data you have, the better. How much it costs, if we're worried about costing. Today's world, it might be a whole bunch. And we can put notes in it. Let's actually get that spelled correctly for you. Having a fat finger problem today. Okay, so we get our fields filled in. We're going to log the fuel usage. We're reviewing our data. And after we get done with this page, we're going to select submit, and off it goes. And we're done. And then we can sign out of this. After we do that, what we're going to do is go back to ER, go to the maintenance module, and we will show you that fuelER does indeed connect to the apparatus in your account. So we did that fuel entry in Quint 201. Let's go in and wrong selection there. Get to the maintenance history, and you'll see that most recent fuel entry I just did for it. My notes go in here. If we take a look at that, we can see all the data that I put in is indeed entered into the record, including the cost factors, and we can update that if we need to, if you have the correct permissions to do so. So fuelER, couple knowledge-based articles we want to throw over here to talk about. Title fuelER web app, fill her up. I think Tom Lewis actually created this one, and Todd did some editing to it a while back. It does show you the web addresses that you need to put into your mobile device's browser. And I've got some other knowledge-based articles to show you how to create that web app on your device. So there's fuelER, fuelER.ersapps.com. If you're on our ultra secure site, fuelER, ersapps.us. This is not available for Maple customers as of yet, and we'll step you through the process that I just showed you a few moments ago. So we do have a couple knowledge base articles out there. First of all, how to save it to the home screen with the iOS operating system. So you have an Apple phone. I think they call them iPhones. Am I right, Tom? This will step you through exactly what you need to do. Basically, when you're on that fuelER sign-in page, select this little button, the square with the arrow pointing out of it, and that will add it to your home screen once you touch that button. And we have a companion article for those of us that use Android devices on how to save it to your home screen from there. Basically, you get to the sign-in page for fuelER, your options, the stack of dots up in the upper right corner, add to home screen. Your controls may be just slightly different from that. That may be in a different location. And then you can title it fuelER and save it. And off you go with that. And we'll put it right on your home screen. So with that, we are done with the presentation today. We need to do a roundup of all the questions. And do we need to revisit anything, guys?
We got a lot of great questions today, Mark, but there's one more in there. Somebody, Gary's asking, is there a report number to be able to report out your fuelER information?
Good point. Yes, there is. There's several of them actually. And I actually, if I would really go down to
Rock on, Sean Sims jumping right in there, putting an answer in. 1753.
Exactly. So let's go to reports.
Did I hear Mark say it works better on an iPhone?
You might have heard that.
That's what I heard, Tom.
Okay, there's a couple ways we can do that. Okay, guys, let's stay on track here. Fuel usage, 1753. Awesome job, Sean. You can go straight to that report, and this will be specifically for fuel usage. You can pick one or more of your apparatus or all of them and simply run the report, and it focuses on fuel entries. Boom, there it is. Instant data available at your fingertips. Now, we can also do a little bit other for that. So let's do the 1699 report, apparatus maintenance history for maintenance type. Adding fuel is a maintenance type. So on this particular list, these are all by apparatus ID only, but our maintenance type will be fuel. And we can get to the same information from this particular report. But Sean was correct with his information. And here it is down here in this part of the page. Okay, now let's go back to the reports, to the maintenance module. It's a little bit quicker to do it this way. We want to talk about the rig checks. We do have a special report. It's down at the bottom of this list. It's a 1775 report, percentage of rig checks passed or failed per apparatus. I'll go to this report, and we're just going to do it year to date, not filter the apparatus, and you'll see what we have here. So if you need to know, are we doing our rig checks? How often are we doing our rig checks, and how often are they passing or failing? You can see, and all it takes is one question to be marked to fail, and it will mark it in red background. The passes are green, and you can see every particular checklist that's been run. And if you need to focus on a specific apparatus, you can do so with the drop-down box or a group of them using the multi-pick list. So that is how we would get that data back out. There's no sense in putting all this data in if we don't get it back out. If you're needing to cross-reference your fuel information, which is usually a budget line item for your departments, we've got the easy solution for you right here at your fingertips in the report section. Great question. Anything else, guys?
Yeah, Mark, the only other unanswered question out there was from Jared, another DOD or ultra secure related question. Is there a fuelER for ultra secure?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
we talked about that, but we'll revisit it. And that's to do we're looking for the one right here. Okay, how do you access it? Here is the web address. You open the browser on your device, whether it's a tablet or a phone, and type in fuelER.ersapps.us. And I actually have that on a slide that I said I would put back up, and I'm going to do so right now. So we will. There they are for you. If you're on our commercial site, so if at the end of the URL that you type in for the web address is .com, you're on our commercial site, fuelER.ersapps.com. If you're an ultra secure customer, fuelER.ersapps.us will get you to that app.
And just a heads up, you might get a security warning on it, but it's okay to proceed. I just got a security warning on both Firefox and Safari on a Mac. So just a heads up, it is indeed working, but you might get a warning error. I got to check our certificate on that.
Okay, perfect. Well, thanks everybody for attending. We appreciate everybody that's a ER customer, and we really appreciate you folks for attending our Virtual Thursdays training. With that, unless I need to visit a question at the last moment here, we're going to go ahead and put this one in the record book. So one more.
Hey, Mark, it's Tom real quick. It's Tom real quick. Jerry, shoot me an email, tom@emergencyreporting.com, and I will, that way I'll have your email, and I'll shoot you the name of that program so you can use CAT credentials on a mobile device.
Okay, perfect, Tom. Thank you. Greg, you had another question?
Gary did put in a question, and I'm not sure I understood it completely, but maybe you'll get it. His question is will they add a quick link to get to a missed question?
So let's see here. Let me get back to here. So let's say I'm going to go into one of these other rigs here. I don't know how big these checklists are, but I understand what the issue is. If I'm going to miss one here. Let's put some data up here real quick. So I'm missing this one here. If I go down and get all of these, and this question may be way up higher on your checklist. If I try to submit this, it's going to flag it. It will just flag it up here, and you'll have to go up and look for the red box for any questions you missed. It will actually tell you in the banner at the top of the page how many questions were missed or not answered, but it doesn't jump to it. You'll just have to scroll up to it until you find it. But it does give you this red border and the text here to select an answer on that. Okay, anything else? Thanks guys for helping me out today. Tom, Greg, and our newbie, Sean, appreciate it. And with that, we're going to go ahead and put this one in the record book. Thanks again, everybody.